After a grueling business trip, I arrived home earlier than expected. The house felt emptier than usual, too quiet, no soft music playing in the kitchen, no hum of the TV in the living room. I called out, "Sarah," letting my voice echo down the empty hallway, but no answer. The silence settled over me, heavy and cold. Setting my suitcase down, I looked around, noticing small things I usually missed. There were fresh flowers in a vase on the kitchen counter, a detail Sarah would typically be thrilled to mention, but she hadn't said a word about them. I shook off the strange feeling creeping up on me. Maybe she'd just stepped out. Then I saw it, a hotel business card, lying on the entryway table, almost hidden under a stack of unopened mail. It looked innocent enough, but something about it caught my attention. I picked it up, examining it. It was from the Regal Hotel downtown. Fancy place, one of those spots you book for a romantic weekend or an anniversary, but we'd never been there, and Sarah had never mentioned going there either. Turning the card over, I noticed a date scrawled in her handwriting, just a couple of weeks ago, while I was away on my last trip. My pulse quickened. I tried to tell myself it could be nothing, maybe a work event she didn't think was important to mention. Still, my mind wouldn't let it go. Why would she have kept a card like this? That night, over dinner, the thought lingered, refusing to let me be. Sarah seemed her usual self, cheerful and chatty, telling me about her week at work. But to me, her words sounded hollow, her laugh a little too perfect. "So, how's work been?" I asked, feeling the question slip out, though my mind was only halfway there. She looked up, mid-bite, and shrugged. "Busy as always. You know how it is." She smiled, but something about the way she held my gaze made my stomach twist. "Did your trip go well?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, as good as these trips can go. Glad to be home, though." My voice sounded off, even to me, and I saw her brow furrow for just a moment before she took another bite. After a few more strained attempts at conversation, I stood, carrying my plate to the sink. She got up to join me, placing her hand on my arm. "You okay?" "You seem distant," she said softly. Forcing a reassuring smile, I replied, "Yeah, just tired." I couldn't bring myself to ask her about the card, not yet. Part of me didn't want to hear whatever excuse she might have. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, but my mind wouldn't rest. The next day, after she'd left for work, I found myself pacing the kitchen, my eyes landing on the card every few seconds. My hand hovered over it before I snatched it up and dialed the hotel number. Each ring seemed to last a lifetime, the silence between them taunting me. Finally, a receptionist picked up, her voice friendly and professional. "Good morning, Regal Hotel. How may I assist you?" Clearing my throat, I spoke as casually as I could. "Hi, I'm calling to confirm a recent stay." The reservation would have been under Sarah Miller. My hands felt clammy, and I could barely keep my voice steady. "One moment, please," she replied, her fingers clicking on a keyboard. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my chest. I expected her to come back and tell me there was no record, that it was all a misunderstanding. But when she finally spoke again, her answer hit me like a punch to the gut. "Yes, Sarah Miller stayed with us 2 weeks ago." There was a pause. "It appears the room was registered to 2 guests. Is there anything else I can help you with?" My grip on the phone tightened, and I felt my face go hot. For a moment, I couldn't respond, my mind scrambling to process what I'd just heard. My voice came out stiff, almost robotic. "No, thank you. That's all I needed." Hanging up, I let the phone fall to the counter, staring blankly ahead. She hadn't gone alone. Someone had been with her, and the possibilities clawed at my mind, each one worse than the last. The betrayal was there, raw and undeniable, wrapped up in a simple piece of paper that I wished I'd never found. That evening, I could barely look at her, every word she said grating against the storm building inside me. After dinner, she turned to me, her eyes soft and searching. "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked, her hand reaching for mine. "You've been quiet all evening." I forced myself to look at her, hating how easily she could slip back into this life we'd built, all while hiding whatever this was. I'm fine, just work stress, I replied, the lie tasting bitter. She tilted her head, studying me, her fingers tracing circles on the back of my hand. You know you can talk to me about anything, right? The irony was almost too much. I pulled my hand away, unable to meet her gaze. Yeah, I know, I muttered, my voice tight. I watched her eyes narrow, just for a second, as if she was picking up on something but couldn't quite put her finger on it. Well, she said, her voice lightening, just know I'm here if you need me. And with that, she smiled and leaned in, pressing a kiss to my cheek. Her touch felt foreign, cold, and wrong. I sat there, motionless, until she walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a sickening realization that the person I thought I knew might be a stranger. Days turned into a blur of uncertainty and tension. Each morning, I watched Sarah go about her routine, my heart heavy with unspoken accusations. Her laughter seemed too bright, her smiles too forced. Every time she stepped out to run errands or meet friends, I felt a gnawing dread. Was she meeting him? The shadow of betrayal loomed over our home, darkening even the sunniest days. I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept wandering back to the hotel card and that ominous phone call. I replayed the conversation in my head, each word digging deeper into my gut. Had I really not seen the signs before? The little late nights at the office, the phone calls she'd take in hushed tones, the way she'd started spending more time with the girls. One evening, while I was cleaning out the garage, I stumbled upon an old box of photographs from when we first started dating. Flipping through the memories felt bittersweet. I came across a picture of us laughing at a carnival, our eyes bright with joy. I wanted that feeling back, but all I could think about was how far we'd strayed from those days. Hey! You doing okay out here? Sarah called from the back door, her voice cutting through my thoughts. She stepped outside, her expression curious. Just organizing some old stuff, I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. You know how it is. She walked over, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I'll help. I always liked going through old things. As she began rummaging through the box, I studied her face, searching for signs of guilt. Her eyes sparkled as she found a photo of us at the beach. Oh, remember this? She exclaimed, laughing. You almost dropped the camera in the water. Yeah, I remember, I said, my voice flat. The memory felt distant, tainted by the present. Do you have any plans for this weekend? She glanced up, her brows knitting together. Not really. Just the usual errands and maybe a lunch with Claire. Why? I hesitated, debating whether to push my questions or hold back. I was just wondering if you wanted to spend some time together, just the two of us. You know, reconnect. Her smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. That sounds nice. I'd love that. But something in her voice felt rehearsed, as if she was merely responding to a prompt rather than expressing genuine enthusiasm. Later that night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing her, and the thought of confronting her about the affair made my stomach churn. Instead, I focused on gathering evidence. I meticulously tracked her movements, noting when she was late coming home or when she had unexplained absences. Each day felt like a slow descent into paranoia. I reached out to a close friend, Jason, seeking guidance. We met at our favorite bar, the kind of place where we used to share laughs over cold beers. But this time, I could barely taste the bitter brew. Dude, you look terrible, he said, concern etched on his face. What's going on? I sighed, running my fingers through my hair. It's Sarah. I think she's cheating on me. He raised an eyebrow. Cheating? That's a pretty serious accusation. What makes you think that? I recounted my findings, the hotel card, the phone calls, the late nights. It's all adding up. I called the hotel, Jason. She was registered with someone else. How can I just sit back and do nothing? Whoa, that's heavy, he replied, shaking his head. Have you talked to her about it? No. I can't just come out and say, hey, I think you're cheating on me. I need proof first. If I'm going to confront her, I need to know for sure. Jason nodded, sipping his beer. I get that, but you should also think about what you want. If she's really cheating, is this a marriage worth saving? Or are you just setting yourself up for more heartache? I stared into my glass, contemplating his words. I don't know. I thought we had something solid. It's like I don't even recognize her anymore. The next few days crawled by, and I was trapped in a cycle of mistrust and anger. My work suffered, my coworkers noticed my distraction. I would sit at my desk, scrolling through my phone for messages, dreading what I might find. One afternoon, I overheard Sarah on the phone in our bedroom, her voice low and urgent. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch snippets of the conversation. No, I can't meet today. I have things to do. I can't keep doing this. It's too risky. My heart raced, the words piercing through me. I had to know. I had to confront her, but the fear of the truth paralyzed me. I was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down into the abyss. When she came out, I feigned nonchalance, but I could see the flicker of anxiety in her eyes. "What's up?" she asked, her tone casual. "Just wondering who you were talking to," I replied, my voice steady, though every word felt like a lie. "You sounded serious." She hesitated, her expression shifting. "Oh, it was just work. Nothing to worry about." I clenched my fists, battling the urge to push further. "You sure? You've been acting different lately. Is there something going on you're not telling me?" She crossed her arms defensively. "What do you mean?" "I'm fine, really. It's just busy at work, that's all." "Busy, huh?" I retorted, the frustration bubbling to the surface. "That's all you ever say." "I want to know what's really happening, Sarah." "Nothing is happening," she snapped, her voice rising. "Why can't you just trust me? I feel like you're accusing me of something, and it's not fair." I took a deep breath, holding back my anger. "I want to trust you. But I can't shake this feeling, and it's tearing me apart." She rolled her eyes, turning away. "Maybe you should talk to someone about your trust issues instead of taking them out on me." Her words stung, and I felt my heart crack a little more. As she walked away, I realized the truth. Trust was already broken, and I was caught in a web of doubt, desperately searching for a way out. That night, I sat in the dark, my mind racing. I knew I needed to confront her, to unearth the truth, but how could I expose the lies without losing everything? Each passing hour felt like a countdown to the moment I'd have to face the reality of our marriage, a reality I wasn't sure I was ready to accept. The weight of uncertainty bore down on me like a thick fog, suffocating and relentless. I spent sleepless nights replaying every moment, every interaction with Sarah, trying to piece together the puzzle of our unraveling marriage. I felt like a detective in my own life, searching for clues that could validate my suspicions. The hotel card had become a symbol of her betrayal, a taunting reminder of everything I feared was true. After days of agonizing over my next steps, I finally resolved to confront her. But not just yet. I needed more evidence, more certainty. I wanted to expose her betrayal, but I also needed to understand the depths of her deception. I couldn't let my emotions lead the way. I had to be calculated. I reached out to Jason again, seeking his counsel. We met at a coffee shop, the air filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the chatter of patrons. I could barely focus on the barista's cheerful voice as he took our orders. My mind was elsewhere, consumed with thoughts of my plan. "Okay, what's your next move?" Jason asked, leaning back in his chair. He looked at me expectantly, eyes narrowed in curiosity. "I'm going to gather evidence," I replied, determination settling in my chest. "I need to know exactly what's going on before I confront her. I'll track her movements, look into her phone, maybe even follow her." He raised an eyebrow. "Following her? That sounds risky. What if she catches you? You could make things worse." "I can't just sit back and do nothing, Jason. I can't let this go on without knowing the truth," I snapped, frustration bubbling over. He held up his hands in a placating gesture. All right. I get it. Just think about how you want to approach this. You don't want to end up looking paranoid or crazy, right? I sighed, the weight of his words sinking in. Yeah, you're right. I need a plan. Over the next few days, I became a master of observation. I set up a routine, studying Sarah's habits with the precision of a spy. I noted when she left for work, how long her lunch breaks were, and when she returned home. Each detail fueled my growing resolve. I felt like I was gaining control, even as my heart battled with a torrent of emotions. One evening, as I was scrolling through my phone, I stumbled upon a forum discussing infidelity and the signs to look for. I found myself absorbing every word, every piece of advice. Look for changes in behavior, one post read. Increased secrecy and less intimacy can be major red flags. I sighed, the words echoing my fears. The following week, I decided it was time to dig deeper. I found myself at home while Sarah was out for a girls' night. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, I felt a rush of adrenaline. This was my chance. I grabbed her phone from the kitchen counter, my heart racing as I unlocked it. A surge of guilt washed over me, but I silenced it with the promise of the truth. I navigated through her apps, searching for signs of betrayal. My hands trembled as I opened her messages, scrolling through conversations that felt too intimate for a husband to read. Most were innocuous, just exchanges with friends, but then I saw it, a text thread with a contact named Claire. They exchanged playful banter, but buried within the messages were hints of something more. Can't wait to see you again. It feels so exciting to be with someone who understands me, one text read. I froze, my heart pounding. Who was this someone she was excited about? Just then, I heard the unmistakable sound of the front door opening. Panic surged through me as I quickly locked her phone and shoved it back into place. I darted to the living room, trying to compose myself, but my heart raced. She stepped in, her face lighting up when she saw me. Hey! You're home early, she said, her voice bright. I thought you'd be working late. Just decided to take a break, I said, forcing a smile. How was your night? Oh, just the usual gossip and laughs, she replied, tossing her purse onto the couch. We talked about the new restaurant opening downtown. I studied her, searching for any sign of guilt, but she seemed perfectly at ease. Sounds fun. Are you going to check it out? Definitely. We're planning a girls' night there soon, she said, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. As she chatted about her evening, I felt an overwhelming urge to confront her then and there, to demand the truth about her affair. But I held back, knowing I needed to be smart about this. I had to wait for the right moment, the right evidence. I enlisted the help of a private investigator, someone Jason had recommended. It felt like a slippery slope, but I was determined. I needed a professional to help gather evidence without tipping Sarah off. When I met him, I felt both anxious and relieved. Let's start with surveillance, he said, looking serious as he jotted down notes. I'll track her movements, see who she meets. It might take some time, but I'll get you the information you need. I nodded, the gravity of my situation crashing down on me. Just be discreet. I can't have her suspecting anything. Trust me, I know how to keep things under the radar, he assured me, a glimmer of confidence in his eyes. You'll be updated regularly. As the investigator left, I felt a mix of hope and despair. I was stepping deeper into a world I never wanted to inhabit, a place of betrayal and heartache. But I couldn't back down now, I needed the truth, whatever it might be. That evening, as I sat on the couch, watching the news in a daze, Sarah walked in, her face flushed from the chill outside. She seemed radiant, laughing as she hung up her coat. But I felt nothing but resentment, the gulf between us growing wider by the minute. Are you okay? She asked, glancing over at me with genuine concern. Just tired, I replied, my voice flat. Her eyes softened, and she approached, placing her hand on my knee. You've been so distant lately. I miss you, We used to have so much fun together. The sincerity in her tone tugged at my heart, but the image of her with someone else clouded my judgment. Yeah, me too, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Let's plan something this weekend, she suggested. Just the two of us. The invitation felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man, yet it only deepened my resolve to see this through. Sure, sounds good, I replied, knowing full well that I was already preparing to shatter the facade we had built together. As she smiled and walked away, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. My heart ached, knowing that soon I would have to confront the very person I had once trusted completely. But I was ready to fight for my truth, no matter the cost. The weekend loomed ahead like a storm cloud, heavy with anticipation. I had spent the last few days gathering evidence, feeding off the adrenaline of my impending confrontation with Sarah. My heart thumped in my chest, each beat echoing my anxiety as I waited for the right moment. I felt as if I were living a double life, wearing a mask of normalcy while preparing for the inevitable fallout. The day of reckoning arrived. I had hired the private investigator to discreetly gather evidence of Sarah's affair, and he sent me a message that confirmed my darkest suspicions. He had captured her leaving a bar with another man, his arm around her shoulders as they walked to a parked car. I stared at the photo, my stomach twisting in knots. It was more than I had anticipated, and it drove home the reality of her betrayal. As we sat across from each other at the dining table, the tension was palpable. Sarah chatted about her week as if nothing was amiss, but I could feel the truth pressing against the walls of my mind, desperate to escape. "Are you even listening to me?" she asked suddenly, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Yeah, I'm just processing," I replied, my voice low. I couldn't meet her gaze. I was afraid that if I looked into her eyes, I might lose my nerve. "Processing what?" she pressed, her tone shifting from casual to concerned. I took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "I know about the hotel, Sarah. I know what you've been doing." Her eyes widened, and I saw a flicker of panic cross her face. "What are you talking about?" "The hotel card," I continued, leaning forward. "I called them, and they confirmed you were there. You weren't alone, were you?" The color drained from her face, and for a moment, she looked lost. I can explain," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Explain what?" I shot back, anger boiling beneath the surface. "That you've been lying to me. That you've been with someone else. Please, just listen," she pleaded, her hands shaking slightly. "It wasn't what you think. I was just confused." "Confused?" I echoed incredulously. "You're in a relationship, Sarah. You're not just confused, you're betraying me. Stop. Just stop," she yelled, her voice rising in desperation. "I never meant for it to happen. I thought I could handle it, but it got out of control." "Handle what?" I challenged, my heart racing. "What's going on with you and this guy?" "I thought I could find something I was missing in our marriage," she admitted, tears pooling in her eyes. "You've been distant, and I felt so alone. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but it didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I spat, disbelief flooding through me. "How can you say that? You're in a relationship with another man. That's not just a mistake, it's a choice." She looked down, her face contorted with shame. "I was lonely, and I thought I could escape for a little while. I never wanted to hurt you." I shook my head, the betrayal clawing at my insides. "You think that makes it okay? You think you can just run away and then come back and expect everything to be fine?" "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I just didn't know how to fix what was broken between us." The word struck deep, a painful reminder of the distance that had grown between us. "You could have talked to me, Sarah. We could have worked through this together instead of you seeking comfort in someone else." I know," she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But it was too late. I was scared, and I didn't know how to reach out for help." "Scared? You were scared, so you cheated?" I retorted, incredulous. "How does that even make sense? You made your choice, and now you have to face the consequences." Just then, my phone buzzed on the table. I glanced at the screen, my stomach dropping as I recognized the investigator's number. It was time to expose everything. I needed to confront her with the truth. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady but cold. "I have proof. I hired someone to follow you, and they got photos of you with him. Her face paled further. What? You did what? She stammered, disbelief and panic intertwining in her features. It's all right here. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking as I scrolled through the messages. You think I was going to sit back and let you continue lying to me? Her expression shifted from desperation to anger. How could you? This is invasion of privacy. You had no right to do that. I had every right. I shot back. You've destroyed our trust. You've shattered everything we built together, and now you want to talk about rights? The air crackled with tension as Sarah's anger erupted. You don't get to dictate how I feel. I was unhappy, and instead of fixing it, you just ignored me. You let me drift away. Unhappy? I echoed, disbelief flooding my voice. You chose to cheat instead of coming to me. That's not a solution, Sarah, that's a betrayal. Her voice dropped to a whisper, filled with regret. I was wrong. I see that now, but it's too late. Too late. I repeated, incredulous. You've broken my heart, and now you want to pretend everything will just go back to normal. The weight of her silence pressed down on us, heavy with unsaid words. I felt the ground beneath me shift, the stability of our marriage crumbling into dust. Maybe we should take some time apart, I suggested, my voice breaking slightly. I need to think about what I want. I can't keep pretending everything is okay. Please, don't say that, she pleaded, reaching out to touch my arm. I love you. I made a mistake, and I want to fix this. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, but my heart felt hardened, the pain too raw. Love doesn't justify betrayal, Sarah. I need to protect myself from the hurt you've caused. In that moment, the door swung open, and Jason walked in, sensing the tension in the air. Hey, is everything all right? He asked, looking between us. I glanced back at Sarah, her face streaked with tears, and I knew the truth was out. No, Jason, everything is not all right. We need to talk. As I filled him in on the situation, I watched Sarah's face shift from hope to despair. With every word, I felt the foundation of our relationship shatter further, the reality of our situation settling heavily in the room. I can't believe this is happening, Jason said, shaking his head. Sarah, you need to understand the gravity of what you've done. You can't just expect to fix this overnight. I know that, she snapped, her voice rising again. I know I messed up. But I love him, and I want to fight for our marriage. Jason's expression softened. It's going to take more than just love to repair this. You need to acknowledge the damage you've done and take responsibility. I'm willing to do that. Just give me a chance, she cried, desperation lacing her words. But I was already too far gone, the pain of betrayal too overwhelming to ignore. I can't keep living like this, Sarah. I need to think about what's best for me now. The silence that followed felt suffocating. I turned to Jason, my heart heavy with regret. I think it's time for me to consult a divorce attorney. As the words left my mouth, I saw the realization dawn on Sarah's face. The enormity of the situation crashed down upon us, a tidal wave of grief, anger, and betrayal. You can't be serious, she whispered, the life draining from her expression. But I was. I had to protect myself, to shield my heart from further pain. The truth was out, and with it came the inevitable unraveling of everything I once held dear. Just give me time, she pleaded, her voice breaking. I'll do better. I promise I'll do better. But deep down, I knew it was too late. I had to move on, to find a way to heal from the wounds that would forever alter the course of my life. As I walked away from that moment, I felt a mix of sorrow and determination. The truth had been exposed, and with it, the end of our marriage. I knew the road ahead would be long and painful, but I was finally ready to take the first step toward my own freedom.